Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here. Welcome back to a brand new video for you guys today here on the channel. Now, I made a video regarding F1 2022 Classic DLC circuits. Now, it has been pretty much confirmed that we're going to be getting DLC tracks throughout the course of F1 22, which is great because it allows the life cycle of the game to remain fresh and enjoyable for us as players. In that previous video, I went ahead and selected 5 different tracks that I thought that Codemasters would add. Not what I want, but what I think Codemasters would add. In that video, though, I stated that if it got over 30 likes, I'd go ahead and make this video, which there's a reason why I'm making this video. And specifically because it had over 30 likes. But in this video, I'm going to be selecting 5 tracks that I personally want. Now, the only rule that I've given, well, the 2 rules I've given myself is as follows. In the previous video, the 5 tracks I selected, I cannot select any of those tracks to go into this video. So if you haven't seen the last video to see what tracks I thought Codemasters would add, go and check it out. And secondly, I don't care about all, the licensings and all these things that basically would mean it be impossible for this circuit to be in the game. I've literally just chosen the tracks I want. So without further ado, let's get straight into them. Okay, so the first track that we're going to talk about is Malaysia. And I'm pretty sure this is probably on everybody's list of tracks that they want to see come back. It was an awesome circuit. It provided great racing, crazy weather conditions, and it was just always a mental Grand Prix every time that you went there. You can hardly remember a time when the race wasn't boring, like when the race got called off in 2009, Multi 21. There were so many other different things. Vettel's win in 2015. Verstappen winning in 2017. There was so many different things, and obviously Lewis Hamilton's DNF in 2016 and then Red Bull's battle. There was just loads. Malaysia's just an awesome circuit, and I'm obviously really disappointed that it's no longer on the calendar. But of course, when you've got other Asian circuits that are bringing in way more money, and obviously MotoGP was providing more entertainment for the overall track itself in terms of the fans, there was a reason why it's gone. But hopefully not for much longer. Now, the last time we had Malaysia in the Formula 1 games was F1 2017. So it does mean that it's fairly recent, but it is going to need a little bit of an overhaul for it to be on F1 22. But personally, I'd love to see Malaysia back. It's a great circuit, plenty of overtaking opportunities. It would just be so much fun to drive them in the current gen cars. Right, the next track that I've gone with is Turkey, Istanbul Park. Now, Formula 1 has actually raced there for the previous 2 seasons. Of course, we raced there in 2020 amidst all of the global pandemic, in which we saw a brilliant, actually, wet weather race, which saw Lewis Hamilton shock pretty much everybody to win that Grand Prix. He had no right to win it even though it was the best Mercedes car they probably ever built. It wasn't on that time. And then, of course, we had the race the following year then, which was a little bit less dramatic. But again, same type of conditions, same weather conditions in the wet. This time it was Valtteri Bottas that won that race. But Turkey is just a fan favourite circuit. Everybody just loves it. It's got everything that people like in race circuits. It's got some slow speed corners. It's got lots of high speed corners. The fantastic triple left at turn 8. But there's also plenty of places just to overtake and just have fun, especially on the long back straight. You can dive it down the inside. But as we've seen in many different battles, I go back to Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton in 2010 after the Red Bulls had taken each other out. Button went through down the inside of Hamilton. He tried to hold it through the next inside apex in the second to last corner, and then Button held his line, got through. Hamilton then slipstreamed him on the straight and passed him. Same thing with actually Hamilton and Perez in 2021 when the Hamilton got through on Perez. Perez forced him wide. There's plenty of places to battle. It's technical. It's just fun. And that's the most important thing. And I think people would really enjoy having a go around Turkey. I was disappointed that it wasn't in the F1 2021 game, considering we had Turkey 2 years in a row. And we obviously had Imola 2 years in a row and Portugal 2 years in a row. And they both got added. So it only feels right that Turkey gets an opportunity on the Formula 1 game. So I'm going with that as my next track. So in the last video, I spoke about Hockenheim being added onto the Formula 1 game. And this time around, I've gone with the Nürburgring. Now, of course, like I said, I can't pick the same circuits. But this doesn't mean that I've picked this circuit specifically because I wanted to pick Hockenheim. My personal opinion, I actually think that the Nürburgring is a better circuit than Hockenheim. For me, it just feels more like a racetrack than Hockenheim is. Unfortunately, Hockenheim pretty much lost that when it turned into the safer, more shorter layout, which obviously made sense because, you know, the original Hockenheim layout was so big, and of course, you know, there was hardly any places for you to get grandstands in all that main forest section. It was like near impossible. But when it went to the shorter version, it just wasn't as good. But for me, if I compared the Nürburgring to Hockenheim, of course, I remember when they rotated between the two of them. For me, the Nürburgring is just way more fun. It's just such a better circuit for me, in my opinion. It's a lot more narrower. It's, again, tight and twisty, high speed, plenty of places to make some overtakes, lots of undulation within the circuit as well. And that just feels more satisfying to see Formula 1 cars around there than it does around Hockenheim. Of course, if we go back, let's say actually, no, to 2019, of course, because Verstappen won in that hectic Hockenheim Grand Prix in the wet, where Mercedes, well, turned into complete bottlers. That race was awesome, but I don't know, comparing that then to 2020 at the Eiffel Grand Prix, okay, the Eiffel Grand Prix wasn't as good, but for me, the circuit's just more satisfying to look at, to see, and to drive. And I'd love to give it a go. I'd love to try it on the F1 game. For me, I prefer the Nürburgring over Hockenheim, but nonetheless, I think Germany needs to have a spot on the Formula 1 calendar. So, put it in the F1 game instead. Now, this one is very much just sort of out there. If you're a Sebastian Vettel fan, you're probably going to be on your knees praying that this circuit gets added to the F1 game. Specifically because, well, only Sebastian Vettel's ever won at India. And that's the track that we're talking about now. Now, this track was actually fantastic. I loved this track. The biggest problem of it, obviously, was financing. Obviously, India couldn't finance the race anymore, so pulled out. But it built a brilliant circuit. And obviously, I did have to quickly remind myself of the layout. So I actually went ahead and watched Vettel's pole lap to see that. But it was awesome. You know, the fact that there's so much, again, different elevations within the circuit, from the start-finish straight all the way up to turn 3, I think it is. Because turn 1 and turn 2 is actually quite impressive. It's a very nice sequence of corners. There's a track I think that it's similar to. At Turkey, there you go. I know I got it from somewhere. But instead of it being a downwards braking into a left-hander and then sweeping right, is actually a right-handed braking zone with a sweep up left and then into the hairpin of turn 3. Super long back straight, plenty of opportunity there to get your overtaking done. DRS on that straight as well. And then the rest of the lap is just pure, tight, technical and just twisty masterclass around there. There's plenty of areas where it's just high speed. And I think really for us as players, you want the satisfaction of driving a circuit more than anything else. And for me, this has it. You know, it's so difficult. And it's one of those circuits where when you nail that lap, when you nail those corners, that sequence, especially the end of Sector 2, or it might be all of Sector 2 and Sector 3, if you can nail that, it's just satisfying. It's awesome, and I love it, and I want India back in the game. And the last circuit for me to add into the F1 22 game, if you're a long-time subscriber of my channel, you'll kind of know that I was obviously going to pick this one. It's Korea. It's quite simple. It is by far one of my favourite tracks that Formula 1 has ever been to, and honestly, if you made this track like the British Grand Prix, the Belgian Grand Prix, the Italian Grand Prix, you know, the Japanese Grand Prix, if this was the layout for any of those Grand Prix, it would already be going down as an all-time classic circuit that nobody would ever want to get rid of. Unfortunately, of course, it's in South Korea, and that's not a bad thing, obviously, being it in South Korea. The only problem is, of course, there was a lot of security problems with Korea, and of course, there was lots of tensions with North Korea. It was just a bit bad, not great, but nonetheless, though, I mean, Korea's got so many fond memories in terms of real-life Formula 1. The 2010 Grand Prix, what an introduction to that it was. The epic battle between Mark Webber and Lewis Hamilton in 2011. But this circuit, it's just got everything that I can't explain it. It's just so good. It's got a great start finish straight, easy into turns 1, but directly into a high speed, a super long back straight into a hairpin. But then you've got another long straight, and then you've got a portion of the lap where you've just got high speed lefts and rights that come at you, whether they're high speeds, whether they're slow speed. And then the final sequence of corners where you just sort of swoop right, and then there's that little dink into the curb, and then you flick yourself through and then onto the start-finish straight. It's an awesome racetrack, and it's one that I really, really wish that this layout, this specific track layout, was in a different country so we could race there all the time, because I love it and I miss it and I want it again. So I'm putting Korea as my #1 target for what's next. But there we go, guys. They are the 5 tracks that I personally want in the F1 22 game. Like I said, there's obviously licensing, there's obviously a bunch of different things that Codemasters have to get through in order to actually get the circuit and put it into the game. But, of course, this is just my personal choice. However, let me know what your personal choice is. Drop your 5 circuits that you want back into the Formula 1 game in the comment section down below, and I'll have a look at some. But that is my choices, and that is the video complete. So if you ended up enjoying it, drop it a like, subscribe if you're new around here as well. I'll catch you guys next time. Take care all. Peace.